Gail Simone, a great writer of comic books. But the first question that we have is, who is Gail Simone?
Who is Gail Simone? I am a comic book writer. I also write for television and video games, and I'm doing some prose as well. And I really like to write strong female characters, and by that I mean female characters that are proactive and drive their own books. They're not appendages to male characters. They're not the sidekicks. They actually drive the stories and drive the books, and that's one of my favorite things to do.
When you write for each media, what do you think at first? What thing would you start?
Usually I want to start with, I want compelling characters, and I want to put them in a situation that's really going to test their characteristics and their personalities. I want to put them up against things that are going to really break their hearts, or really kind of break them and force them to dig deep to overcome or to defeat their enemy or to move on in their life. And so I try to think about interesting locations where we haven't seen before, different ways to tell the story, different characters that will interact with each other. It's kind of a bit of a simultaneous thing, and the thinking part of writing is what takes me the longest, is really figuring out tone, the age group that I'm trying to make it appropriate for. All those kinds of things go into it too. And then once I sit down at the keyboard, I'm fairly fast at writing, but there's a lot of time spent figuring out these characters and how they're going to act and what world they're going to be in.
It's so different, right? For comic, for video games, and for television.
There are differences, but the similar thing is that you have to tell a compelling story with characters that people are interested in and want to root for, or want to come back and see what happens to them in their stories. So those have to be there. But when you, for instance, when you write for television, you know that there's going to be a little bit of dialogue, so you need to say a lot with very little, because you don't want a character talking on and on and on in a scene. So you kind of think about those things. You think about what the camera can do that you don't need to write, to fill in all that. So it's different, but you still are communicating to someone on the other side of the lens or on the other side of the comic book, and that's kind of what I think of how they're going to be absorbing it. And video games tend to not be as linear of stories, because you have side missions, or if someone makes a decision, one decision over another one, their story might go differently. So it's a little bit more of a circular or tree branches that kind of go out compared to just a straight storyline.
Which one of these media do you feel more comfortable to write?
Well, I've written over 450 comic books, so that's my favorite medium at the time. I really do, though, enjoy stretching my muscles and doing different things, and some stories are better in video games or are better in prose, and so I like to explore those too.
If someone wants to be a writer, comic books, video games, especially more that kind of side, what would be your advice?
Excuse me. The first piece of advice I would give is you can't just talk about it. You have to actually do it. It's really easy to say, I want to write comics, or I want to be a writer. It's not as easy to sit down and actually do the work, but you can't be those things without doing the work. And the other thing would be, don't be afraid to fail, because you will fail, and that's part of how you get better, and that's part of your process of becoming a writer. And as you fail and succeed, you have a toolbox that you put your successes in it, and you don't put the failures in it. And the more you write, the bigger your toolbox gets, and you just absolutely need to go through that process. So try to look at a failure as, well, this is something that now I know I'm not going to do, and to really work quite hard. And then also you need to find what you have to offer that no one else has to offer. Don't imitate other creators. Come up with something that you haven't seen before that you really believe in.
And for all your fans around the world, for the fans here in Mexico, what do you can tell how you feel and about the toast?
Well, actually meeting the readers here in Mexico has been really fun today. They're very emotional. They really seem to feel the stories with their heart and express it that way. And that's been really fun to communicate with them today. And I'm always just very excited when a story that I've written or, you know, my peers have written reach into another country, into another culture, and how they respond to those same stories. And it's quite a miracle that the industry is becoming a lot more global. And what I love about that is not only do we get more creative, more diverse creators from all around the world, but we can tell a lot more diverse stories, a lot more kinds of stories, different locations, different cultures, different sensibilities. And it's really opening up this industry so that we're not telling the same types of stories over and over and over again. And I'm so excited about that.
Last but not least, can you send a big hi for all the subscribers of our website? It's say, hello, Artes 9, thanks.
What's the name of the website? And it's subscribers? Is that what we said, our listeners, or what is it?
Well, it's a blog, and we have Twitter and Facebook followers, and so it's...
We got all.
You do, okay. Hi from Gail Simone to all of you, those of you who follow the Arts 9.